right, y'all, I'm so excited because I get to sit down with Grammy Award winner and winner of just so many awards, the legend, Amy Grant. Amy, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Good morning.
I'm so excited about this. I have been a fan of yours for forever, like I know so many people have. And this year's really special because you are right in the middle of this incredible 30th anniversary of your Heart in Motion album. And I know that this must be a really cool moment where you're reflecting on the last 30 years and kind of looking back at all of your music. Tell me what this has been like as you're celebrating this.
I think the biggest sort of wow is to go, that music that sometimes feels like we made yesterday was half a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
And so, right now I turned 60 this year. We re-released Heart in Motion with some bonus materials. I had open heart surgery a year ago. It feels very thematic, but the real ta-da was 4th of July weekend. My daughter Millie, who was, I was pregnant with her, and then right around her birth and first year of her life. And then she came out on the Grammys with me when I sang the song Baby, Baby that she inspired.
Oh, wow.
She just told me she's pregnant with a baby girl.
Wow! Congratulations! Oh my gosh, I love it.
I know, there's just like so many themes aligned. It's really been beautiful, And we all have things that we look back on with just such fond memories. And just sometimes it's nice to reconnect with the people that were all a part of that process. And then you go, it's special to you too. And for this reason and that reason. Anyway, so it's been a great prolonged conversation over the last few weeks.
That's so cool. Well, that's such a famous song. I mean, I remember singing that song when I was little, and it's just one of those songs that like has such a great beat. It's so cool to hear from you though, behind the scenes of your daughter and being inspired by that. And I know that a lot of women are listening to this and watching, and they might be in that season, Amy, where they are in the trenches of little kids trying to juggle their job and their dream or their business and their babies. And I've got 3, 6, 4, and 1, and I'm in the trenches. So tell me what it's like from your perspective, just hearing that your daughter is having a baby and looking back on like even when she came out on stage with you and thinking, I mean, people say it goes so fast. Is it true?
Yes. Yes and no, as you know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it was an easier time then to be a mother of young children. I know I had help, an extended family. I always had a sister who was pregnant at the same time I was, so we would kind of commiserate about our sleepless nights and all that. But believe it or not, I had one nanny and I had 2 kids in my 20s, one in my 30s, and my last at 40. I mean, I just spread motherhood out as long as possible. PTA, 33 years. But Phyllis was the one nanny I had for 33 years.
Wow.
And I know, and she's just so amazing. And anyway, but a couple things that I think made it easier is, on one hand, social media connects us to other people so we don't feel so isolated, but it can be such a robber of sleep time. And that that's just even what I tell myself is when you're tired, if you can sleep, put your phone down and get a nap. And then also my whole life, I have enjoyed just like looking at my watch and saying, I've got 5 minutes that I have nowhere I have to be. I take my shoes off and go outside and go, I'm taking a 5-minute vacation right here. If you can do 5 minutes, you can sneak off for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I love that. Such simple things, but I also love how you highlight the importance of help because I think so many women feel guilty. When I launched my first book, Business Boutique, in 2017, we hired a nanny. Her name is Becca, and she's been with us since, and she is a part of the family. She will be with us forever, hopefully. But I think so many women feel guilty about having help, whether that's a babysitter or a nanny or any type of childcare. And I think when you're juggling a lot of things, I just love that example that you set, that you say, hey, you need help to be able to do all these things that you're doing. It's not weakness. It's wise to have that.
Well, yeah. And I mean, there are all different ways for a family to be structured.
Right.
But anybody that's doing a lot of extra things, they're getting help.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, nobody can do it all. And, help comes in waves or it can be constant like a nanny. But just to me, the emotional responsibility of being a mom, you have to find ways to sort of lighten that load.
Yeah.
And anyway, I can't listen to Patsy Cline without remembering the stretch of time that, bubble bath, which might not be a good idea now. I'm not sure what they say, but 30 years ago, we were doing bubble baths with the kids. But bubble baths with my two daughters when they were little, listening to Patsy Cline.
Yeah.
And I would just say, anytime you can infuse music into cleaning up the kitchen, infuse music into housework, infuse music into bedtime. You don't have to be singing it, but there's something about that just, it is soul filling. And you go, oh, we're going to make it.
It is. It's so true. We'll put on music and we'll let the kids go around the table and pick songs from Alexa, request songs. And they're always like some of those like kids bop type of upbeat, fun music. And we'll do dance parties and make up dance moves while we're at the table, just real simple things, but it keeps them energized, engaged, actually eating, surprisingly, and it keeps them not fighting, which is so key. Music will reduce the fights, which is nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Speaking of music, Amy, you have been doing this for such a long time, and you still seem to love it. What is the secret to not burning out on this thing that you love? Because I know a lot of people, they're doing something they love, but even that thing they love can become a grind, and they don't want it to, they don't mean for it to. Talk a little bit about that. You seem to still love it. You're celebrating 30 years of that album this year and going on tour this fall. You've got so many things going on. What's the secret to that?
Well, I mean, after COVID, everything that we were doing tour-wise, ceased.
Right.
For 15, 16 months. And I mean, anybody that kind of does the same thing year in, year out, no matter what it is, teacher, writer, singer, business person, I know, there's this fantasy in the back of our heads. What if I had a totally different life? I mean, I think everybody thinks that.
Right.
But there was something about COVID that just ripped it all away that made me be so grateful. I don't ever want my language to be, I have to go to work. It's like, I get to do this.
Right.
I get to work.
Yeah.
And anyway, so, but, I mean, I never imagined I would have a career all these years of making music. When I was a kid, hanging out, singing with my friends, there were always people that sang better than I did. But I love the environment that music creates. And to me, it's like a big welcome table.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had open heart surgery last year.
Talk
a little bit about, you even shared a little bit of how that changed your perspective, on everything and COVID, for example. But talk a little bit about the recovery.
Right. Well, if there was a good time for recovery from a major surgery, COVID was a good time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like the world was rushing on without me. But it's an interesting community, the Zipper Club. Anybody that's had their chest cracked open, I was so grateful that I had an issue that was fixable. And so, the recovery process was, at first you sort of feel like you've been run over by a truck.
Yeah.
And then, but every day it got a little better, I'm glad I had hair. I would pull myself up my hair. And you just sort of watch and feel your body heal.
Yeah.
But I have thought so many times about somebody with an ongoing situation, the ongoing journey of cancer, the ongoing journey of anything, high blood pressure, diabetes. And I count myself so fortunate that what I had was something that was fixable.
Yeah.
And after that, really a non-issue.
Yeah.
But anyway, the best thing I think I did was I tried not to think about it until the day for surgery came. And I actually have a friend who's having heart surgery today.
Oh,
and in a way, I feel like I've become the go-to for different people saying, what can I really expect?
Right.
And there are nitty-gritty details that I would not ever say on your podcast.
Sure. There's an element we just keep private. I hear you.
You don't even want to know.
That's right.
But to just say, you just have to trust the people that are taking care of you.
Yeah.
And ask everybody to pray.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our lives are a mystery. I have a friend that went in for open heart surgery 2.5 weeks ago and passed away 2 weeks later.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And and that funeral's this Friday. I mean, there are just no guarantees in life. And maybe those are the things that make it's good to think about those things, because it makes even the hard things feel a little more precious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a good, this is valuable, even if it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
This matters. I
Yeah.
care about this. I care about this person.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, it's good to stay sensitized to that. And the tough stuff is what sensitizes us to those.
Yeah.
What really matters. So it's just all part of the journey.
Yeah. You have such a grateful heart, that comes through and everything. Say, I get to do this, and I'm so grateful it was fixable. It's that posture of gratitude comes through in everything you say, and I think that does make such a difference in how you experience the good times, like the mountaintops of the 30th anniversary of your album, or the really difficult seasons of what you went through, or certainly losing a friend to that. That posture changes how you experience it, but I'm sure it's also changes how other people around you even see that. So I think that's even a powerful lesson in that, and how you see it. I'm curious, Amy, with so many things that you have had in front of you, so many opportunities, so many, I'm sure, demands and requests and so on. COVID was a weird year because your calendar was cleared and everybody's was and so on. But now, you're back into this busy season. You're going on tour this fall, and there's all these things going on, all good things, it sounds like, that you've got coming up with the album and stuff. How do you keep yourself from getting overwhelmed? Because I think that is one of the top words I hear from women that I work with and walk with and so on. And whether they're a stay-at-home mom and they're overwhelmed by motherhood, or they're running a business and they're overwhelmed by their business, or they're overwhelmed with a health crisis, something that is just taking all their time and attention, recovery, healing, and so on, whether it's themselves or a family member. I think that is one of those words that I hear a lot. And I'm just curious, from someone like you that certainly has a lot on your plate that could overwhelm you, but you seem to have a posture of, grace and calm, and even the way that you speak is very calming. I'm curious how you manage that so you don't get overwhelmed.
It's an interesting question. There have been times in my life where I have felt completely overwhelmed, and always it's because I'm looking too far down the road.
Okay.
Always. Even looking to the end of the day, how can I get all this done today? How can I? And then I'm supposed to show up at this place, and then I'm supposed to, whatever it is. But if I can just bring it all down to the moment I'm in, there is always grace and enough in the moment you're in, always. And it's just, and I know that not just from my own life, but because of music, I've had the unique experience of total strangers will walk up to me and tell me their story.
Yeah.
It's just, I love that. But, we sort of skip the small talk. It's not like, hey, my name is.
Right.
They'll say, your music has meant something to me. And when I was going through XYZ, and we're in the deep end of the pool instantly.
Wow.
But because of that, I've heard so many people's stories. We all came together and we were so sad, and we were just sitting in this room and put on this record, and we're just looking at each other, and, whatever the circumstance is, and it gut-wrenching. I heard the most gut-wrenching stories, and always, even in the middle of the trauma, something good is also present. And so it gives me confidence. Even, my story, yes. The hardest cry of my entire life, the details do not matter, but no kidding, outside, under a night sky, face in the mud, snot cry, just, and then somehow in there floated in some kind of peace. And I was like, I am not alone in this. And just breathe. But that stress is like looking at the whole elephant that has to be eaten.
Yeah.
Or the whole mountain that has to be climbed.
Yeah.
And you just, I think anybody that's ever done anything that requires endurance, whether it's running, or I enjoy just casual biking. But that was such a lesson to me when I got my first hybrid bike, and I would be at some big hill and go, oh my gosh. And then I learned, hey, there's no shame in the simplest gear.
That's right.
It's actually easier to ride than it is to walk.
That's right.
You're not falling over. It just takes time.
That's right.
You're going to get through it. And it's funny, those lessons of endurance that we learn through physical things,
That's true.
they also apply to emotional things.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, just one step, just breathe.
Yeah, that's such a good example. I like to run. My husband and I met in a running group, and when I'm going up a hill, I have a similar tactic where I do not look at the top of the hill because it seems insurmountable. But I'm like,
Yep.
that mailbox, that fire hydrant,
Yes.
that light post, and then
Yes.
one tiny thing at a time. Before you know it, I look up, and then what I naturally do when I get to the top is I'll glance over my shoulder like, okay, I did it. I made it,
Yes.
before you keep
Yes.
going. And so that's such a great analogy for life, whether it's biking, but I love the bike. I love to bike as well, but I love the easy gear. And I think sometimes women especially, we can be so hard on ourselves. Like, I've got to do the hard gear and I've got to get there to the top and I've got to be the fastest and I've got to look good when I get to the top. And it's like, hey, take the pressure off.
Yes. Yeah. And I also think when you really have no extra gas in the tank, you just go, what are the essentials?
Yes.
I mean, I remember calling my oldest sister saying, I'm a failure of a mother. I'm working so hard. I'm not having all these meaningful interactions with my kids. I'm delegating to somebody else. And I remember her saying, and my kids were young.
Yeah.
And I remember my sister, Kathy, saying, have you held each of your kids today? Did you say, I love you?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have something in their stomach? Are they safe and dry? Do they have a pillow under their head? I'm like, yes.
Okay.
You go, hey, you made it through today.
That's right.
And so it's like, I mean, so many times we just get all caught up in the details that really don't matter.
Yeah.
I can't find my other shoe. I'm wearing flip-flops. Who cares? Really?
Right. That's right.
I didn't, I don't have time to present myself. Well, what matters most? Run a brush through your hair, throw on some lipstick. Really? I mean, it takes 30 seconds. I mean, all those things that you go, I thought this mattered. But really, when we show up in a room, the stuff we think is important about our presentation is so much less important.
Mm-hmm.
What people remember about any of us is how they felt in our presence. And we get so locked in our own heads, like, I'm not enough, I'm not this, I'm not showing up the way I wanted to show up. But if we would just take a big breath at the threshold and say, I'm a channel of love and light for this world. And all that requires is openness.
That's right.
And go, I'm going in here with my 14-day-old unwashed hair, and I powdered my body for the third day in a row. Nobody get downwind. But if you just go, okay, I can be a channel of love and light.
Yeah.
And you just walk in and...
I love that. I love that. I love the wisdom in that. And I love the wisdom in what you said a minute ago. I want to circle back to when even the correlation you said, I'm typically overwhelmed when I look too far down the line. And as soon as you said that, I was like, yes, that is what I do. It's like, oh, and then this, and then this, and then this. And we actually create this giant snowball effect that we feel like we're sinking under. But I love your reminder of like being present for right now, what's in front of you.
Yep.
You are doing it. It's not just that you can't do it. We feel like, oh, I can't do it. You are doing it. You're doing it right now. And I love that reminder. Similar to the overwhelm question I've got, and I know we have to wrap up. I want to respect your time. But I'm curious, for someone like you, Amy, that has so many opportunities and demands, I always love asking people, how do you decide what you say yes to and what you say no to? Like, I know it's not a formula, and all people are different of like, well, here's what I ask myself, or here's the discernment I use. Do you have any type of like questions you ask yourself or anything to help you decide what's right for you and what's not? Mm-hmm. It's hard.
Well, I'd like to say I have an overview. When it comes to work, I have a manager.
Okay.
And so, she fields the first line.
Sure.
But there are times when I put too much on my plate,
mm-hmm.
Because I have work things and then personal things. And I have sung with a great singer named Kim Keys. We've toured off and on for years and years. And she has seen me, we're like putting on mascara.
Yeah.
Right before we go out and sing, warming up in the dressing room. And I remember at the end of one tour, and she said, will you do me a favor in this time off? And I said, what? And she said, I want to see you water the seeds that matter the most to you.
That's beautiful.
And that was the best advice, so I'm constantly having to say, am I watering the seeds that matter the most to me? Because those are like the relationships that I chose, or the people whose life crosses mine, and it feels like this matters right now.
Right.
But I usually know that I have, I'm too far outside the lines and I'm like, I'm dying here.
Yeah, yeah, same.
That's how I know that I have overcommitted. And so
Yeah.
to me, it's just like the pendulum will swing too
Sure.
wide. I'm too isolated. Well, now I'm kind of getting sad.
Right.
Well, now I'm
Now I'm
doing
kinda
too
bored.
much. Yeah. So anytime I always just look at that, whatever that thing is that makes you do that
Yeah.
and go, oh, well, it's just time to shift a little bit,
Yeah.
And I'm constantly saying to myself, I have my hands on my steering wheel.
There you go.
I can't steer anybody else. I can't steer my husband. I can't steer my children. But if I can steer myself closer to this support system, I can steer myself away from this thing that feels a little toxic, but I just always just, yeah. But I mean, I don't ever do it right. I just know, it's like you hit the thing on the edge of the road. And I go, oh, recalibrate.
Yeah.
That's the only way I know
Yeah.
is just, do your best. And then you're constantly recalibrating.
Yeah, I love that. So many women are listening right now, going, "Oh yeah, I am on the bumper thing right now." But that's such a good analogy, and I love that advice. That is just such powerful advice. Water the seeds that matter most to you, and it just gives you such permission to decide what those are, and also the freedom to shake the guilt. They don't have to look like someone else's, not someone on social media, not your neighbor, not your sister. What's important to them that you. I love your example too of the steering wheel. You have the responsibility and the opportunity to water the seeds that matter most to you. Amy, you're just a light. You are a vessel of light and love in this world. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your music and for you hanging out with us today. I know people want to know about the new anniversary album. So tell us where can they get it and what all comes with it. I know you've done some new stuff with it to celebrate.
We have. So Heart in Motion came out this month 30 years ago, and we created, I'm sure all music platforms you can get it, and we actually, reprinted LPs.
Oh, awesome.
And yes, but I know that the digital downloads are possible with like songs that didn't make the record.
Oh, cool.
And some of the original demos,
Yeah.
and some of the crazy remixes, the whole club singing back in the early 90s, those have not been findable anywhere.
Yeah.
And those used to crack me up. I would get a remix from A&M Records and I would go, are you sure that's my song?
What did you do to
then it starts going and you go, oh, no wonder this is like hitting the club scene. But yeah, and mostly we just did a lot of reminiscing with all the people that were part of that project. And it was just so lovely to look back and yeah, just reminisce about a sweet time in life.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing they can get it anywhere. They get music, amygrant.com, all of that good stuff. Well, I cannot wait to go listen to Baby Baby. I'm like, yes, it brings me back. So thank you so much, Amy. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And certainly thanks for your wisdom for all of us.
Hey, just keep going. You're doing great.